Recording. We are live. Welcome back to another fabulous episode of the RINO podcast. Head on over to patreon.com/RINOpod, patreon.com/RINOpod. Only $1 a month. Just did a fantastic episode. Some pop culture issues, but mostly Tucker Carlson is now on the freak right. He's kind of been moving in that direction for some time, but now it's just like official. I think he wouldn't call himself the freak right, but he wouldn't call himself a conservative anymore. So we get into all the ins and outs of what he said most recently and what he's been saying for a while. So going over to patreon.com/RINOpod, sign up today, and we will give you that extra content. Today, Caitlin, we are talking about a few things. We're talking about some pop culture stuff, but more why it affects our culture, politics, a little bit on our governor and her performance, and then a little bit about what's the stupidity going on in D.C. But you and I were talking on the Patreon a little bit. You saw Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
And we won't talk about that because you'll have to go to the Patreon and subscribe if you want to hear our thoughts on that. But question came up. Two things came up in that conversation that we put a pin in for this episode. The show Three Body Problem and the show Turning Point, The Bomb in the Cold War. I think, all right, so how many episodes are you into Three Body Problem?
Like 2.
All right. I think I'm 3 episodes in. After 2 episodes, I was like, this is annoying me. I see where it's going. But they are unintentionally making the case for conservatism. Now, Jonah Goldberg, I'll fully admit, he kind of got me thinking on this because he's watched some of it and said this. Because the first episode, and we're not giving away any spoilers here, but also if you're into the spoilers and you haven't watched it yet and you want to, feel free to fast forward. It opens in the 1966, the Cultural Revolutions in Maoist China.
Yeah, that's a sad opening.
It's a really sad opening, right?
Okay. It's hard to watch.
Yeah. And where a physics professor is brutalized by a little child Maoist who...
basically a college youth. Like, she would have been like college age.
At college, maybe high school. Yeah, but essentially just showing...
Imagine your average college leftist. She beats this. So if you all don't know, in the Cultural Revolution, they decided to... they beat up the scientists too. So if they weren't teaching quote unquote Maoist or communist thought on scientific notions, they really, in this case, they murdered you in front of people. And
when people talk about a cultural revolution, and those on the left are talking about it now, and this has been done. It was thought about by the Nazis and the communists, and it's starting and actually going back to the French Revolution too. And that's where I think it probably originally got started. It's wiping the slate clean. Yeah, right? It's purging. Yeah. It's truly a cultural revolution. You are wiping out the old culture and replacing it with what you believe to be the superior new culture. And that's why modern day, in America, in that context, you have people saying, everything is a white supremacist construct. Everything is, Western civilization is all white supremacy. They want to, America is a fundamentally racist country. All this nonsense that they essentially want to reset and recalibrate everything so that whatever you've known before is wrong. So that's what was taking place in this episode. But the thrust of the show so far, and again, I'm only 3 episodes in, is that you don't want to be anti-science. Kind of a wink and a nod to the people who like to wear masks and, get vaccines. Okay. But Jonah actually talks about this, but it goes a little deeper as you watch these episodes. They don't realize that, like, you watch that scene with the Cultural Revolution and the Maoists and them, assaulting and brutalizing this physics professor. It's exactly what's going on college campuses right now and on the streets, protesting and shouting people down. It
happened in Columbia, like, literally this week.
I mean, last night. Or
yeah, like, if I'm looking at this right now, what I saw, I think it was like yesterday. Let me find my tweet about it. If 9/11 happened today, the freak left would do this insane shit to cheer Al Qaeda, and the freak right would argue we deserved it by hijacking libertarian arguments.
Correct.
What I'm seeing here out of Columbia and all these other universities on, like, literally the Israel thing, it is insane. It is insane. It's not surprising, because them supporting Hamas and Gaza and, like, literal terrorists is unsurprising.
It is, because, and it's unequivocal now. It's unequivocal because they believe the bullshit that they've been fed. The subversive cultural revolution taking place in America for a few decades now, that America is a bad place, it needs to be taken down, fundamentally transformed, all of those things, all of these buzzwords that you hear. And the weird part about the Netflix series is as it goes on. So where does episode 2 leave off? What's the last scene in that? Because I think I can get into what my next point is.
I might have been at the end of episode 1. I might have been at the end of episode 1, not into episode 2. Sometimes it blurs, but I did get past the funeral, and they introduced the mom. So, like, the older daughter,
right,
from the cultural.
Okay, so the daughter, the physics professor on the stage who's.
I feel like this is a show where I have to really pay attention.
You have to really pay attention,
because, like, it's going to be like a logical mess if I don't pay attention. Really, like with Fallout. Like, so I watched the new Fallout series. We want to talk about, like,
I don't know that. We only maybe we got a lot to cover, so I'll start watching it.
You're gonna need to watch Fallout on Amazon Prime for next week, Jeff.
All right, I'll check that out.
Three-Body Problem, I will watch for next week.
Continue to watch, and I'll continue to watch it. But I'm going to say this so that without spoiling it for you, if you're only at the end of episode 1, I will use vague enough language that the character, the daughter, who's also a brilliant mind in physics, makes a decision, a very important decision at the end of I think episode 2. Now, this decision, if you take a step back and look at what she does, is completely influenced by her worldview, living in oppression in communist China.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Like, and knowing that it's wrong, right? So this feeling and this angst of living there, she makes that decision. And that it has these ramifications in the future. They fast forward to now. She's an older woman, yada, yada, yada. They'll get into it. But I don't even know that the producers of this, and you know who the producers of this are? Like, huge names, like Benioff, Damon Benioff, Rosamund Pike, Brad Pitt. Like, there's a whole bunch of people that produce this show that are well known, because it's actually a pretty well done show. But the way the character, I think, nothing on Netflix, which is, I think Michelle Obama or the Obamas are on the board of it. A lot of heavy, of course there's the overt woke shit, but I don't even know. But I'm telling you, they unintentionally made a case for conservatism in a lot of these things. And if you can get to episode 3, I want to talk to you about that. But I'm going to encourage folks to watch it because
my homework for next week.
Yeah. So the I don't think the left and the producers of this, maybe they've realized it, but maybe they haven't, because they're on record. The people who made the show are like, "What? No. We definitely weren't trying to like the opening scene of the Cultural Revolution. They're like, oh crap, we didn't mean it to make a point towards conservatism. They've said that on their record, which is funny. But there's like, it's by the end of episode 3, I'm laughing.
I mean,
because I'm laughing because it's like
this Cultural Revolution was pretty horrifying. I don't know how anybody who's liberal or on the left can make an argument that, you know, when you see that type of oppression, you see it in the United States. We definitely don't do that. And
so the next show that I had to hate watch it. It was like watching old episodes of Bill Maher, where you're just like, you get angry, and where it's not like the new clips where he's sort of like
gets it.
Well,
it's like everybody's gone crazy. Yeah. So like the center must hold, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what Bill Maher is doing.
But Turning Point, they have on Radio Free Tom Nichols, the editor of the New Yorker. Oh yeah, it's just.
Speaking of alien conspiracy theories, Tom Nichols has appeared on NASA Unexplained as a national security advisor in the past. And I only know this because when we were locked down in COVID, watched the entire series because I was completely bored. And so he showed up in like episode 3. Yeah. So
if there's maybe, you know, there's the right-wing grifters. He's definitely like a beltway grifter, for sure.
He lives in Newport.
Turning Point, if you want to get angry at your television, watch Turning Point, The Bomb in the Cold War, because
What does Tom Nichols say? Please tell me he doesn't take the liberal position.
I'd have to watch it again to get into exactly what he says. But the thrust of it is, and it makes no sense if you follow their logic, is that the United States essentially provoked the Cold War. That's where they get. That's
their ultimate present.
Right.
So
that's the premise of the show, which is bullshit.
They're talking in the first episode. They talk about the bomb. I remember clicking on this, being like, "Oh, like maybe it'll be fair." Ha ha ha. No. The joke is, they talk about the bomb. They talk about Oppenheimer. They talk about like what the original use for the bomb. The original use for the bomb was to drop it on actually Berlin and like Germany and German targets. Because, you know, the big focal point at that point was make sure we win in Europe. But we were going to win in Europe after a certain point, because once D-Day happened, we were gonna push back on the German part. And obviously, the Germans were making heavy mistakes on the eastern front lines in Russia and Eastern Europe. So anyway, we ended up dropping the bomb on Japan twice. Right now on my Twitter, I had it filled with idiots who are currently saying that we were not justified in dropping the bombs on Japan, and we talked about this on the Patreon episode.
But honestly, why we're talking about this show is because like this show, people are watching the show and they're starting to go out and express this opinion based on what they saw in the fucking show.
Do you remember early on in the Obama years where he did a tour of the Pacific?
The apology tour.
And everyone was concerned on whether or not when he goes to Japan, he was going to formally apologize for dropping the bombs on Japan. And everyone was like, you better not fucking do it, man. Like, we were justified. Yeah. Because he had that opinion that we might have not been justified, right? Like, he hinted at it a lot. Mm-hmm. And because Obama, you know.
So, well,
Obama's arrogance and ego, like he thinks he knows better than everybody. He's actually very much like Woodrow Wilson in that way, right? Yes. Like he's the smart intellectual. He knows. Yeah. But anyway, they go through this entire Cold War thing, pretty much saying that we were the aggressor on the Soviet Union. It's really fucking insane, guys. Like, it says that we were the aggressor in the Cold War, and it happened because we dropped the bombs and we were the aggressors in the surrender of Nazi Germany in Japan.
Oh, and then can I just point out some highlights, some typical left wing,
like didn't do like anything to be in like it was fuck. It goes into
well, they bring on every center left and lefty trope of the past 50 years. The Rosenbergs weren't guilty. They bring on the Rosenbergs kid. They were 1,000% guilty. Now you can argue over whether they should have been killed or not, but they fucking did it. They did it.
They actually.
There's a mountain of evidence. There's a mountain of evidence that they fucking did it.
The thing is that they were working. He was working for the United States government at the time. They had Soviet handlers. They were guilty.
Yeah. We had offensive missiles in Turkey and West Germany and all that because the Soviets were invading all those satellite states right after World War II to develop a layer of protection against the fascists. But Stalin wanted the territory, and including Ukraine. See, this is the weird part. This is the weird part, and it fast forward and to go through.
And they take like a bunch of territory after that, right? Like so after World War II. We in Western Europe decided to rebuild these countries, and they decided to form on their own. Did we make them into satellites of the United States? No, we didn't, right, Jeff? Is France a satellite of the United States? No. Is Western Germany a satellite of the United States?
No.
Well, I don't want it. I don't even want military there.
Here's the weirdest part, the crazy part of this, right? So of course, those the highlights, the Rosenbergs. And Nixon, I think they're more fair to Nixon than anybody else, because he goes to China, and of course they're all sympathetic, and the Russians and the Chinese were not the aggressors, and it was all the U.S.'s fault. Weirdly, none of this happens for decade after decade after decade. And then Reagan comes along, and Reagan sucks, and they take a big dump on Reagan. Yeah, and then the Cold War ends in 91, right after Reagan, who gets out of office in 88 into 90, and then HW.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, so they go through Gorbachev and, all the prime ministers, and then Boris Yeltsin, who I forgot about Boris Yeltsin, and then who takes over for Boris Yeltsin? It's Vladimir Putin. So magically, from the end of World War II to the year 2000, so over 50 years, it's blame America, right? It's like fucking bullshit. And then all of a sudden, Vladimir Putin gets in, and the Russians are bad guys again. And Vladimir Putin is a dictator, and he's just consolidated power, which is all true now, but you can't reconcile that to the other. Like in the episodes 8 and 9, that's where they get to. But episodes 1 through 7, don't match to 8 and 9.
Yeah, liberals used to not think that Vladimir Putin was bad. Quite the opposite, right? Because they did nothing when Putin did the Crimea invasion. Putin was actually the first world leader that George W. Bush talked to after 9/11. Did you know that?
I didn't know. Maybe they mentioned that, but I didn't know that. Yeah.
Interesting. You want to know why?
I'm going to say the Chechen rebels.
I'm going to say that Vladimir Putin hates Islamic terrorism.
Right.
He hates Islamic terrorism.
Yeah.
A lot of it is the Chechen rebels, but a lot of it is dealing with Iran and insurgency in the Middle East, because Putin's pretty cemented in Syria and everything. He hates Afghanistan, all of that area. He hates Islamic terrorism.
Okay.
Liberals and conservatives used to not hate Russia. We wanted Russia to become a democracy. It's obviously an oligarchy now.
Yeah.
Russia is our enemy. I hate to break it to you. They are now, they could have been actually a partner. We tried to ensure through trade and, after the Soviet Union collapsed, for them to become a partner. It is kind of within their Russian culture over time. Oligarchy, they respond well to our oligarchy. This was not surprising to me.
So my final mixed review on Turning Point is.
But I did watch it.
Okay, did you watch the whole? Did you watch all of it?
I watched the entire thing.
Yeah,
all of the liberal bullshit.
I did. I had to turn off the last 30 minutes of episode 9 because it was just going too. I was just like, because now, like they literally talk about Trump.
It's blame America.
Yeah,
like
no,
it,
but
it
it's
really
like
blame America. Fuck Republicans. Like that was.
But they start lying about Trump. They start
every
talking
Republican
about,
president is the problem. Like it really like it's your where even I would say like the turning point, the 9/11, when that series started, they didn't blame Bush really until like there was a shift in public opinion on George W. Bush in the series, right? Like in the timeline of the series. They didn't really blame Bush or like try to promote the fact that liberals all think that, Al Gore won the 2020 or not 2020, 2000 election. And
no,
he would have done something different in 9/11. He wouldn't have done anything.
It might as well have been produced by MSNBC. I mean, honestly, you should,
especially
if you're on the right, you should hate watch this. You should hate watch it because you need to watch it to understand where the stupid opinions that you're going to come up against are being reinforced, and you need to have decent counter arguments, right? That's the only reason. Like Oppo Research is why you should watch that show. All right, but so I say watch it, but it's incredibly bad, and it's essentially, here's the buzzword for Catherine Maher, new head of NPR. It's misinformation. That entire show is fucking misinformation. So I hope you watch it and knowing that you're watching that. On to more issues close to home. Our governor, Maura Healey. Caitlin, she's not good at her job.
She's getting progressively worse.
She's getting bad.
Who could have foreseen this?
Not Jeff Deal. I mean, look, this is what happens when you elect activists. Okay, Maura Healey, when she was Attorney General, which Attorney Generals lawyers definitely make bad executives. They just do. She was an activist. This is what happens when you elect activists. She wasn't going after criminals. She was suing companies, suing Trump 100 times, bragged about it. That's what she was doing. You know,
she destroyed a pipeline project that would have gotten us cheaper.
Cheaper natural gas. That's right.
Yeah.
So all these little things, it's like those are her accomplishments, what she's done, but it's not actually doing anything. It's not running anything. And now she actually has to run something. The whole state. The executive branch of the state.
But did you also know that she plays basketball? Because that's all she did.
And rides a skateboard.
Yeah. Did you know that?
But all of her clips right now, she's doubling down.
She posted on Instagram about the Boston Tea Party and made a Taylor Swift joke. And I was like, wow, you are so unfunny.
Corny ass, cringy stuff. And more when she does interviews on CNN. The interviewer is barely paying attention because she's just going, Trump sucks, abortion, Trump sucks, just to distract from her bad policies. And it comes to fruition now, which this woman she appointed, Monica Tibbetts Nut, I don't know. And I'm not, now is on the front page of the Herald with her plans to put up tolls at the borders of Massachusetts, take money from everybody who has money, or that money should be given to. It's just the phrasing is just hysterical.
Yeah. So she delivered a speech where stating she was targeting everyone who has money.
Yeah. Just the immigration. She supported driver's licenses for illegal immigrants, and now we have a flood of illegal immigrants here. She's busting the budget by $1 billion because of the sanctuary state and sanctuary city status all over the Commonwealth. Budget shortfalls. Just complete mismanagement. Just complete and utter mismanagement. She does not know what she's doing. Now, this is a good opportunity for Republicans. But we have to get, we have to do our job and get better and get more Republicans elected. But I think it's abundantly clear, and we have 2 more years of this, and there's no signs of it turning around. So the lack of confidence in her leadership is abundant. This is an opportunity, though. It's an opportunity for a Republican with vision and executive experience, and who knows what they're doing, to start making inroads. And I'd even argue before this election in 24. There's an opportunity. She's out there front and center with this. She's leading. She's out there campaigning now. So there's an opportunity for that. And then you couple that with the dysfunction of down in D.C. I don't know. Do you have anything else on Maura? It's like she's just not good at her job.
She's not good at her job. She's not. It's like clown. Like, it's just clownish. Like, she's unserious. When she walks in the room, she's not the adult in the room. Like, if you've ever met Charlie Baker, like, when I think of like a good governor, Charlie Baker, when he walks in the room, he's the adult in the room. Everyone gravitates towards him.
When
when
Ron DeSantis walks in the room, he's the serious grown-up in the room.
Yeah, like, the thing is like, and they get things done. Like, on a local level, like, if we're talking about squatting laws, it's because Ron DeSantis is getting rid of squatting laws in Florida, which in Massachusetts, we have squatters' rights, which is completely insane to me. Yeah. Because that's a very big violation of private property. Anyway, yeah, Maura Healey, she just doesn't get it. She's a clown. She's not putting our state in any good direction. There's no really good initiatives that she's pushing forward. Anytime I hear her speak, it's just partisan garbage.
So just
the thing is that, Charlie Baker was just like, this is what needs to be done for the state. This is what needs to be done for the good of the state. You might not agree with it, but it needs to be done for the good of the state. I have never heard anything out of Maura Healey's mouth about that. We went from a surplus to a deficit in the budget because they're overspending on the migrant stuff. And that's not good policy. It's not good policy. I don't know what else to say. Like, she just is.
Well, that's the other. But this is why lawyers and activists make terrible executives.
Well, she must be a terrible lawyer too, if she's like.
Yeah, I don't even know if she won any. Did she win any of those lawsuits against Trump?
Well, she did defeat the fucking pipeline that still makes my.
That's true. Well, she was successful there. She was successful there, but that was bad policy.
Massachusetts, she still makes my house heating cost sky high.
And well, to wrap up, one other recent thing. By the way, this is all in the past like 2 months, where this is all coming to a head. She put together a commission that was supposed to evaluate the revenue for the MBTA and how make it sustainable. It's like, I think there's a turning point with the MBTA now that this is really important. I might write some more on this. No plan for reform or what to do with the MBTA is this giant black hole, this money pit of sunk cost that we need to radically reform. And Republicans, so if you're watching this and you're a Republican and you're a Republican in a position of influence, and you know who I'm talking to, the phrase that needs to start coming back into the thing is reform before revenue. Not one penny more until they start changing the way they operate. Because this is enough. They're an extra $500 million there. You got Jim Aloisi calling for $115 billion to put to improve the T. Like, these people are in fucking la la land with their obsession over trains and making people ride public transportation so they can control them. And that's what it comes down to. So, and Healey just, checking out, not getting engaged, not rolling up her sleeves to figure out what's wrong with the MBTA and actually fix it. Put that in contrast to at least what Deval Patrick did prior to Baker. I mean, Deval Patrick wasn't a particularly good governor, but he didn't pull this bullshit. You know? So it's like, you can't, like, it's not even like a question of, and I'm saying that objectively. Baker was leaps and bounds better than Deval, but.
I think Patrick understood how to run a state because he's been in the executive before. Again, Maura Healey is a lawyer.
Well, no, I mean, Patrick was a lawyer, but at least he got.
But I think that he had been in a position where he led like an executive position.
Yeah, I forget, like, but yeah.
I mean, but like at least that like Maura Healey, when she did it under Attorney General, was corrupt as fuck. So it's like.
Deval Patrick, though, here's I think where the difference is.
I mean, he was corrupt too. So
no, Deval Patrick wasn't an activist.
True.
Okay, so you come at it with that different perspective. You just scream and yell for what you want and make banal platitudes to your supporters that somehow gets things done. It's what Ayanna Pressley does. It's what even
it's annoying.
Yeah, it's just it says nothing.
I don't want to talk to. I don't even like activists on the right. Like activists I suck because like they just don't know what to do. Like when they get power, they don't understand how to run things. Like all they know is how to be a firebrand. And
people on the right need to stop listening to the kooky conspiracy theorists. People on the left need to stop listening to, or people on the Democratic Party who may be center left need to stop listening to activists. The transportation activists, the bicycle activists, the environmental activists, all of these, the housing activists that you have all over Mass Poly. Like, you have to stop listening to these people. They don't know what they're doing. They truly do not. And they're advocating for bad policy. And you're selling, for a small minority of policy prescriptions, you are sacrificing the good of just about everybody in the Commonwealth. No more fucking bike lanes. No, just all this nonsense. All right, we'll wrap up with speaker drama.
Speaker drama. So this week, what's been going through the Senate and the House recently is funding for Taiwan, Israel, and Ukraine, plus the TikTok bill. So TikTok is evil. I will say that. TikTok is very bad. Why is it bad, Jeff? Why is TikTok bad?
Because it's owned by the Chinese Communist Party, and they are pushing content that rots the brains of our youth and also spies on us.
Yep, through its data collection. First of all, we do not have any national rights in order to allow TikTok to operate in our country. In China, Facebook and Twitter and all of our Instagram, these social media platforms are not allowed in China. So we do not have to allow TikTok. TikTok is bad because it does rot the brains of young Americans, even adults. And it is kind of a passageway where you spread a lot of conspiracy theories. Most recently, what was it? The Osama bin Laden may have had a point.
Oh yeah, that one. That was a few months ago.
Yeah. That was a few months ago. But anyway, that was going through. I think the Senate's already passed it. They need to pass it on the House side. The biggest point of contention was Ukraine funding. And guess who decided to come riding in on her horse and say that they wanted to do a motion to vacate the Speaker of the House, the Republican Speaker of the House. We have like a 1-seat majority, Jeff. Did you know that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Democrats love her.
So.
I don't even want to give it, this is what she wants. She just wants attention. She doesn't want to get doesn't want anything good for the country or even what she wants or claims to want.
She's a moron. She doesn't even know what she's talking about when it comes to Ukraine funding.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, by the way, this is who we're talking about. Sorry.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. So I knew that this was going to eventually happen, what eventually happened, right? Okay. So when Gatz took out McCarthy, they had a 4-seat majority. They had several people, it took a lot of turns for him to get voted to speaker. Matt Gatz took him out with 4 other morons or 5 other morons. And I knew eventually that the next voted on Speaker of the House was going to have to be a bipartisan Speaker of the House. And that is what these hardcore morons in the House Freedom Caucus, Matt Gaetz specifically, Marjorie Taylor Greene, instead of negotiating with your own side, it is your fault, FYI. It's not his job to ensure that you're happy. It is your job as a member of Congress to come to a consensus. That is your job. Okay, that's what you need to do. Okay, you're not going to pass legislation. You're not front benchers. No one thinks that you're serious. Okay, so that's the reason why you don't pass legislation. You just like to open your mouth for Fox News when they come around with their microphone, or MSNBC or CNN. Okay. So over the Ukraine funding, Marjorie Taylor Greene decided she was going to do a motion to vacate, and then Thomas Massie comes out of nowhere and says the same. Again, we have a 1-seat majority. So what did this do?
I think
Jeff?
it'll go. I think it's, if this keeps playing out, Hakeem Jeffries is speaker.
Well, eventually, yes. Right. I
mean, this just chips away. I mean, this, like, these.
So what happened was these 2 morons, with the others behind it, because, you know, Matt Gaetz, of course, has to get in the middle of the kerfuffle, because he's an idiot and doesn't understand anything. Donald Trump came out of nowhere, actually, this week, and said that he supported the Ukraine funding. Did you know that? Donald Trump.
It's true. Yep.
Because what they're doing is the Lend-Lease situation where
they got to pay it back at some point in the future.
You got to pay it back at some point.
Whether that happens, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, Congress could definitely do another act and say that they don't owe us back anything. Yeah. But that's not the case right now. That's not what the legislation is. They decided to throw a hissy fit. And of course, the Ukraine funding, along with Israel, you know, the Dems on their side have their people that are against Israel funding because they're the freak left. But it passed. Of course it passed. This passed. It is a bipartisan measure. And of course you have, you know, your usual typical people who scream uniparty. And uniparty just means bipartisanship and consensus.
And it's where most, look, kind of to bring it full circle, with most sane people, normal people, understand that Putin is a thug and a dictator and invaded another country, and there should be some resistance against that we should fund. Okay, yeah. Unless you're on the freak left or freak right, on Twitter all the time, you understand this. Then that's it. Call it bipartisan, sure, but it's where most of the country is.
Right, like that's the
whether
thing.
You're
like
on the left or the right.
You can call it uniparty all you want. It was consensus. Yeah. Like that's what that means. And so I'm not upset about it. Ukraine needs the military stuff.
My final thoughts on this is, like, look, we had to do this in Massachusetts actually last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, where we had to kind of stomp on our freak right here in Massachusetts and move forward the people who were normal. You know, Amy Carnevale is now affirmatively our chair with a solid majority on the committee. That sort of needs to happen. That same type of activity needs to happen across the party and across the country, where it's just like, we got to, like, so I don't know, whether it's primarying Marjorie Taylor Greene or whomever, you got to start, like, look, you're a freak. You're an absolute, useless person. Stop voting for her. And call them out. Don't be afraid of all the names that they're going to throw at you, because they're just useless. Because it doesn't matter anymore. They have no credibility, nothing. And you just got to start kicking them out. It might take a while, but it's got to start happening. We got to start. We did a good episode on the Patreon about Tucker. Kick out Tucker. They're done. Ostracize them to the right. let them say whatever they want. I'm not talking about like not freedom of speech or anything like. Let them say whatever they're going to say, but just you're a freak. You don't get it. You're a conspiracy theorist. Bye. So long. And we'll start winning again, and start getting the serious people will start coming into play. All right. We are just about out of time here, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Head on over to patreon.com/RhinoPod, only $1 a month for extra content there. We really appreciate your support. We really appreciate you watching. So until next time, bye-bye.
Bye, guys.